thought I would do a basic video on, glass painting 101. What is it? What paints can you use? How do you make sure that it adheres to the glass? It's not super complicated, but if you don't know, this will help you get started. So I'm going to do a series of short videos and explain the different things you can do, how you can do them. Even this metal tumbler is glass paint. So at some point I'll explain how to do that successfully. And hopefully that helps you make something pretty for yourself, for your family, for your friends. This is just a standard glass. I got it at the dollar store. I've washed it, I've cleaned it, I've washed my hands. You don't want to have lotion or anything on your fingers that touches the glass and gets between the paint and the glass. All of the glass paints that are bakeable and that are water-based include some sort of glue enamel. Doesn't matter if it's enamel paint or if it's what's called multi-surface. What you're looking for is in the instructions that you have to bake it. And it can be a couple of different brands that I've tried. Marabou is one. I've tried FolkArt. I've tried PBO Vitria 160. You can paint with these paints on any super smooth surface that you can bake. So you can't bake a lid, but you can bake this. And the coating that's on these cups is baked at much higher degrees and longer time frame than what your glass paints are. And as long as you're putting this in the oven without the lid, you're going to be able to bake it for 30 minutes, 40 minutes at around 320 or 350, depending on the brand of paint you're using. Let's say you just wanted to do a quick coating on the glass and you wanted to do frost, right? I've tried painting frost with brushes and it did not work out for me. It ends up looking kind of strange. What I found to be the easiest method was a damp sponge. So I get most of the water off, put one end of it in there, and then I just start pounding it gently all around the bottom of the glass. And that's just because I'm going to do like a sand color. Then I think I'll go up with some white and then some blue. And then what I'll do is another video and show you how to then paint something on top of this after it's dried. But this is fairly straightforward, and it gives me that frosted look and a little bit of pattern, and I will have to do 2 coats. So I have to let the first coat dry before I do the second coat. Pretty straightforward. I will rinse this color out because I don't want to turn the white sandy color, because the paints will mix. You can absolutely mix these paints. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So my frost white, I'm going to put that on. Clean that. Right, and then I will go up and slightly overlap that after I've gone around slightly above the original sandy color. And I'm not being overly particular about this. I mean, the idea is that it has almost an ombre effect. I think that'll look nice on a cup like this. When you're doing glass paints, you really want to think about what it's going to be used for when you're designing what you're going to be putting on that. And this paint is so thin, it's such a thin layer, that I am absolutely going to have to put a coat of clear on that when I'm done, after it's dried. I will go back and add that coat of clear. And I don't mind that it's going up and down. I mean, if this is supposed to somehow represent the ocean, it shouldn't be a straight line. If I wanted a straight line, I could put a piece of masking tape on it and then peel that off after I was done. And then the last color on this is going to be turquoise. I'm getting low on this paint, that's for sure. You could take a blow dryer and just from a distance, which I'll do in a second, help this to dry a little bit faster. In there. What you don't want to do is put a blow dryer right up to the glass that's got a high heat setting, because it'll bubble the paint and it'll kind of ruin what you just did. Then you have to wash it and start all over. That's not a good thing. But this one doesn't blow too hard. It's a crafty heat gun. So I'll just keep it a distance away. And the paint's a little shiny when it's wet, and it's more matte when it's dry, so you'll know. I don't know if this will pick up on the camera. I'll edit it out if it doesn't, but it's dry here and it's matte. But as I roll, I can see more shiny where it's still wet. And as it dries, you start to see through all of it, and where it's still wet, it looks more solid. So we're almost there. Now I'm just going to do that second coat. Same thing, same process. I'm going on top of the old stuff. If I don't wait for this to dry in between these coats, it pulls the first coat back off. Been there, done that. And if you're noticing some of it's getting a little bit on the edge of the bottom, that's fine. I'll scrape that off with my fingernail before I fire it. So I'm not worried about that at all. Now, if you don't have frost paint, if you added some extra water to these paints, it would thin out, give you the same frosted look. Until I bake this, I can just wash this. One of those sponges that has the plastic edging on it. We have frosted a glass. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If that's all you want to do, I would just let this dry for a good hour. Then I would come back and put a coat of the clear enamel. It's number 4035 from FolkArt. The reason is that this is super thin. So I wouldn't use the sponge for that. I would use a basic brush or something. Then I would let it dry at least an hour before I baked it. And most of the time I let it dry for 24 hours. And the reason I do that is if you have a bit of paint on there that hasn't fully dried out and you put it in the oven, it's going to bubble and it's going to be pretty much ruined. Once you've baked it, it's much harder to get the paint off. Right now, I can still just go in and use, my nail or something to scrape the edge of the paint to get a nice straight line. I can come back with a little bit of rubbing alcohol even if I want to, toothpick, that kind of thing. So when I clean it up, I just cut my nails too. I usually have my nails a little bit longer, but all I'm doing is rubbing it like this. And you could see that the paint's coming right back off. It's not cured. It hasn't even dried fully. So this is a good time for me to do a little bit of cleanup. And if you don't care about cleaning it up, you don't have to. It really depends on whether or not you think that's an important thing to do. If you wanted to make a set of these and give them to somebody, absolutely. And it would go so nice in a kitchen, if they're using a beach type theme. And it was so easy to make. And they would be super excited to get this as a gift. But I am going to go back and paint some things on here. And, probably a sand doll or whatever. I'll do that in another video. I hope this helps you understand some of the basics. Especially about if you wanted to try frosting a glass. Now, if you want to learn more about glass painting and get some ideas on different things that you could make to give away as gifts, please, like, comment, subscribe, ask me questions. I'll try to answer them. I'm just a mom and an artist, and I enjoy doing this. I do sell some things on Etsy. By all means, please share my shop. It's how I pay for materials and camera equipment and everything else in order to be able to teach people how to do this. So I could absolutely use your support. Let's make something beautiful today.